welcome and really want to just appreciate all of you for joining us and joining us for this hour around designing for community. Um, so I want to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands in which we're all calling in from. So I'm calling in from Wurundjeri country of the Kulin Nation and acknowledge their elders past, present, and emergent. I'm Ramon from Alkimia Learning, and we are the exclusive partner for Chaos Pilots here in Australia. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And throughout the hour, I'm going to be sharing the 3 top tips from Chaos Pilot's approach to designing for communities. And we also have our guest speaker, Frances, who will also bring in her community building expertise, and really excited to hear what she has to say on this topic as well. So we have a lot to cover today, and I'm sure you're curious about what this means in terms of how we can design experiences for community. So the first thing we want to do is this idea of connection before content, right? And because community is so central to creating connection and a sense of belonging, we want to just take a few minutes to connect with one another. There are folks here that you might know and some folks that are new. We're just going to play a bit of a connection roulette. So we're just going to pair you up in breakout groups. And we're going to spend 5 minutes really quickly for you to introduce each other. And really quickly, also want to share, what communities are you a part of? Is there one that's your favorite? Is there a community that really stands out for you, and why? So just spend just a couple minutes introducing yourselves to each other in pairs, and we'll come back to the large group. All right, see you in 5. Hey, so is that everyone? Welcome back, everybody. And we are recording as well for those that may be registered and could not attend. We'll be sending an edited version of this as well. So really glad that you all had a chance to connect around your favorite moments in community. And really, when we're having those great moments of community, it could be easy to think it just is so easy and it happens kind of spontaneously. And I used to think the same, right? That it's kind of like you could just wing it, right? You can be spontaneous. But the reality is, great communities aren't built by accident. It takes intentionality and tools, and it can be done by design and not by default, right? And so today, really, the mission, if you choose to accept, is to really identify, because again, we're going to go really quickly over this hour, just one principle or tool that you want to experiment or apply in order to help you design better experiences of community in your work. Because knowing a lot of you already, some of you lead massive communities, or maybe you're at the beginning of your journey in thinking about how to design for community in the spaces that you're involved with. And so, how does it show up for us here at Alkimia? As a business, we believe in the power of community. We have now more than 400 alumni that have gone through our different kinds of experiences, mostly through the Chaos Pilot programs that we offer. And last year, we started our journey by partnering with friends, colleagues, and one of our Chaos Pilot alum, and some of you might know Paz Pizarski and Ben Davis of the Community Collective. And we really wanted to invest in how do we create a thriving community within our group. And we're excited to start testing some of our new experiences actually next month, like the coaching circle, for example, that we're going to be launching within Alkimia. But this belief and conviction about the power of community and experiencing designing for community really goes back more than a decade for us. The idea of community And experience design is a love story. And if you probably saw a friend's LinkedIn post, like this merger of both thinking about experience design and community is such a good combination for a lot of reasons. And we'll talk more about that. But for us, and for me in particular, I want to share a personal story because it is a love story that goes back way back. So about over a decade ago, myself and Zoe were planning our wedding. So, surprise reveal for those that might not know, Zoe are not just business partners together, but we're also life partners. And so, at the time, back in 2015, we were planning a destination wedding to the Dominican Republic, which is where I was born and most of my family is from, and have a massive, massive family. And so at the time, Zoe, knowing that she had to bring her family from Australia, but also we had friends spread out in so many countries around the world. And when in 2015, back then, we were actually living in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So we also had friends coming in from Brazil. And in the end, we had, I think, something like 150 people from 30 different countries, right? And we had so many people on our guest list and too many countries to figure out how to coordinate languages, right? Because some folks only spoke one language. My family, for example, only spoke Spanish. Some folks only spoke English. And so it was really having to get over some of the cultural language barriers. Money was obviously tight, so we didn't want to spend a lot. And this was meant to really be a highlight to celebrate our union together. But it was feeling a bit stressful and difficult to navigate. And that's when we kind of said, okay, we need to think differently. And I'm sure some of you, as you think about different experiences, and when it involves large groups of people, have a similar kind of stress. You're trying to bring in people from so many different backgrounds and experiences and understanding of what you're trying to do. And at the same time, you're dealing with really limited resources, but you want to make that experience special. You want to make it memorable, something that can stand out and not be the typical kind of thing that might happen. And so that's what we wanted to do. And so both being kind of nerdy designers and facilitators, we took a bunch of Post-its and Sharpies and went away for our wedding design weekend. So we still keep the little document as you see here. So this is our little notebook from that weekend back in 2015. And here it encapsulates all of our notes and ideas and Post-its. And really, it's a great example of, at the time, we didn't even know anything about chaos pilots or this experience approach to design. And so we just knew that we wanted something special. We wanted something that would really stand out. And so we wanted to make sure that one of the things that we wanted to design for, we have three core wedding values, which was celebration, commitment, and community. And so that sense of community meant we wanted guests to not just be names on an RSVP list or a seating chart. We wanted our guests to really be connected to each other, to really find ways that they could support each other in this experience, but also understand how they could support us in our wedding and beyond as part of our marriage. And so it really became a game changer. Once we decided those were our three core values, we wanted to design for those values, in particular community. So it gave us a clear direction and made all our decisions much easier and much less stressful. And we had shared ownership with everyone, with all the guests, to co-create the experience together. And that's kind of where our love story with experience design and community started. And hopefully that shows that the power of what we can do when we combine an experience and design for that community. So I'm going to be coming back with some more examples and share some tips from the Chaos Pilot Toolkit when it's time. But now it's really time to hear from our fabulous speaker, an experience design program mentor, Fran. So she is going to help us unpack what are those key ingredients for a strong community and how we can build one. And so just a little bit about Fran. I'm really so excited to have her join us. One, because she's going to be joining us, as I mentioned, as our mentor in the Experience Design program that's coming up at the end of April. So she's been committed to empowering women in business and entrepreneurship and leadership. Fran is the co-founder and head of community and growth at One Roof. And Fran oversaw One Roof's digital transformation back in 2020 from a brick and mortars co-working. When I heard that story, it really inspired me because, as we all know, we all had to pivot in some way in 2020 given the pandemic. And to see how they turned that brick and mortar co-working model into a fully digital experience that has now onboarded more than 1,500 members across Australia and overseas. She's committed to elevating women in business and curates the One Roof member experience to really make sure it's tailored and unique to the needs of their members. She's really an innovation expert, a startup coach and champion of women-led businesses. So you'll see her really talking and being in a lot of spaces that promotes entrepreneurship for women. And she's experienced in building these businesses and startups and mentoring as well. So she, as well as a mentor within the community collective and in other spaces. She received the Mompreneur Award in 2024 in the Building Online Communities category and has been recognized for outstanding efforts in developing and expanding digital communities. So I want to pass it now over to Fran.
Hi everyone, so great to see you all and lots of familiar faces. Thanks so much for taking time out of your very busy Tuesdays to be here with us. I'm going to share my screen with you and let me know if you can see that. Can you all see that? Brilliant. Thanks for all the thumbs. Really appreciate it. So I'm Frances, but please call me Fran. And thank you, Ramon, for that really beautiful introduction. I was going to do my intro, but it seems that you've done an even better job of it. So super briefly, before I actually share more about myself, I also wanted to give a huge thank you to Ramon and Zoe for inviting me to be a part of today's event. It's just such an honor to be here with all of you. I know that you're all really interested in building community, and some of you are already doing that. So feel free to share any comments or questions in the chat along the way too. Love hearing from you all. But can you see the slide that's got some logos now? Has it moved? Has the slide moved?
It says you've started to share, but it's not. It's just black. I don't know if you maybe want to stop and start again.
All good.
There we go.
I can
now
do that.
Oh, just as you.
I know. All good. Let me go to that again for you.
Oh, we can admire some cute baby, cute baby in the meantime.
Sorry, he's refusing to have the nap that he should be having right now, Zoe.
Oh,
it's all good.
He wants to learn all about community as well.
Yeah, get in early. Yes. There you go, we got it.
All right, brilliant. Cool. So I am like some of you here. I was having a chat with Ruby earlier when we were in our connection pod. I'm also a fellow corporate escapee. Having worked in investment banking, I moved into consulting where I taught human-centered design and design thinking. So this next evolution of experience design is something I'm super excited to co-learn with, all those participants who are going to be on the program. And after that, I specialized in corporate innovation, so helping organizations to become more innovative. And through that, I worked closely with startups as a matchmaker between tech and funding so that larger organizations could thrive in this century and startups could get their technology out into the world. And then when the pandemic arrived, the world as we all knew it and know it really changed. Many businesses were going online, and that's why I joined One Roof to help them with their digital transformation to help build and scale their community. So a little bit about One Roof is, as Ramon introduced, we are a community of women leaders and entrepreneurs and on a mission to break barriers for women and elevate them to their greatest success. So I'd love to share the origin story and really of OneRoof, and use it as a little bit of a case study in some of the examples throughout when I'm sharing some community building tactics. So OneRoof started 10 years ago now as a physical co-working space in Melbourne, in South Bank specifically, and was the leading co-working space for women entrepreneurs. And we've had some amazing founders who have seen great success come out of there. Some of you may know Christina Hobbs from Verve Super, which is a super fund created by women for women, and others such as Circle In and Mr. Yum, which was originally, which is now merged with Me and You. So the QR code company for ordering food. And so when the pandemic arrived, we shifted fully online. Our community was about 180 people who had been in and out of the space as regular tenants. And so the original plan in 2020 was to create a larger flagship site in Cremorne. But again, with the world being so unknown at the time and with co-working as an industry being in flux, we decided to make the really tough decision to go fully online. And it was such a silver lining at that time where we were able to really capture an audience and grow that into a community who were seeking connection, who were feeling really isolated, as many of us were, but coupled with the mental load of taking care of younger ones or older ones, as many women do, and that added layer of growing a business. It was the right thing at the right time, and we're really lucky to have onboarded, as Ramon said, over 1,500 women all across Australia now, and we're not just stuck to just one location. We've got beautiful members in every city and state now. And so my journey with OneRoof began almost the same time as my journey with another amazing organization that was mentioned earlier called the Community Collective, co-founded by the incredible Paz, and where I'm proud to be a coach as well. And so today I'll be sharing learnings from both OneRoof and the Community Collective. So I hope you find today really jam-packed with value. All right, so I'd love to kick off with this idea of what is community. And through my work with the Community Collective, I'd like to share one of our favorite definitions, which was shared early on the screen, and delve a little bit further into that. So what is community? And in order to share this definition, I'd like to compare it with audience. So a lot of people often mistake a community for an audience. So an audience is where the involvement is quite passive. It's quite one directional. There's one-way communication. It's a one-to-many type of situation, and people have a minimal sense of belonging. It's also one where you might be able to relate to, where there's a lot of one-way consumption happening. So you might be consuming a newsletter or be part of an Instagram following. So for example, with OneRoof, we've got over 15,000 Instagram followers, and that would be classified as an audience as opposed to a community. Whereas when we look at community, it's really this beautiful circular evolution here where the participants are very active and there's a many-to-many communication style. People have a real sense of belonging here, and members of that community contribute as well. So there's a lot of peer-to-peer exchange of information, of experience, and of beautiful wisdom as well. So members know how to contribute as well in this community. So earlier we talked about how community was a place where people have a shared sense of purpose, but more than that, they also connect regularly. And it's the regularity of connection that is what is essential to building a community amongst the peers and amongst the members. Now, I want to expand on this a little bit and talk about why community is important. So we're going through the what, we're going to the why, but even before we go on further, I'd love to share these really interesting core elements of how community has become the latest currency, the newest currency, in fact, the strongest currency when it comes to business and organizations. So there are a lot of unique advantages that a really well engaged community can help to grow and scale these organizations. So the first one is enhanced customer loyalty and retention. So when it comes to, if you're thinking about products, and you're thinking about repurchase, communities that are deeply engaged with their brands and deeply engaged with the story tend to share, be more loyal, and return. They also provide really valuable feedback and insights because they're really invested in their community and their peers. There's also increased brand advocacy. So what we've seen, for example, with One Roof is huge, volume of new members coming from word of mouth and coming from referrals as opposed to purely marketing, which a lot of brands play in. And then co-creation and innovation. I'll delve into this more through some examples, but that is a huge, wonderful benefit of having a really engaged community. Something that people don't often talk about is how having a strong community also provides for a distinctive market positioning. It's not that easy to copy a community. It takes time, it takes a lot of intention, it takes consideration and effort to build a true, long-lasting, strong community. And if we've got time, I can share a little anecdote, a personal anecdote as well about some community copycats. Now, two more things I want to go through: increased member engagement and satisfaction. So we find that people who are part of a community and love their community, they're really engaged. They're generally more satisfied as well because they feel seen, they feel heard, and they feel really empowered within their community. And then resilience and agility. So this one is for the organization or the business, where those that have a strong community are actually more resilient in times of flux, when there are economical changes, and more agile in the way that they're able to move and change and evolve as well, because the community really lifts them. Now, how do we build a strong community? This is what we're all here for. But a teaser before we get into that is, let's talk about who we're serving as well. I think sometimes we think that we know who we're serving and we can list some of their traits, but there's another layer to it now. It's not enough to be niche anymore to stand out. One of the things we talk about at the Community Collective is that we have to be niche cubed to cut through the noise. So let's talk about what that means, and I get to nerd out on this a little bit. So cube meaning 3 dimensions, right? So when we are niche in one dimension, we think about our audience. And so I'd love to use, in this case, the Community Collective as an example, right? So to help get more specific about when we're looking at maybe what challenge our community is solving, most people have their target audience and they can label it with one word. So for Community Collective, it was community builders, but that is just one dimension. Now let's go over to 2 dimensions, niche squared. This is where most people play in as well. This is when we add another layer of traits. Some people think about demographics, and this is the next layer or the next trait. So for example, with Community Collective, it was community builders who are in the startup space, right? So getting more specific. But honestly, that's not enough for that resilience and agility that we're looking for. And so layering on a 3rd trait allows your community to be more defensible as well. So the hallmark of these great communities is going even deeper and identifying what that 3rd trait is. So if we're looking at the Community Collective, their focus was on, firstly, community builders, second in the startup space, and thirdly in Melbourne. Now, if I take One Roof as an example, our first trait is women. The second trait is women entrepreneurs. And when we started One Roof as a physical space, it was women entrepreneurs in Melbourne. But when we moved online, it was still women. It was still women entrepreneurs. And then it was women feeling isolation or really wanting that connection to grow their network and build businesses along like-minded people. And if I take One Roof as an example, we have quite a few competitors that are arguably ticked niche 1 and niche 2 of ours, but with the regularity of connection, that's one of the defensible traits, for example, looking at One Roof as an example. So I love talking about this because I think it really causes us to think about who we're serving and deeply as well. And so some fun photos of One Roof. As we can see, some of our members, this was on the top left, some of our members in the Gold Coast, and the bottom of our members in Melbourne as well. Okay, so let's talk now about what it actually does take to build a strong community. What are some of the key ingredients here? And so one of the first and favorite things we love to talk about is co-creation. So when we can create our community with the people that we're serving, now that we know who we're serving, we ask for their input. So when One Roof went from physical to digital, we asked our members along the way what they needed. Now, remember, they had been going daily into our physical space, and now they were at home. And what they got from the physical space was connection. So we curated programming, and this was in 2020 during the pandemic, the peak of lockdowns. We had programming, we had something on every single day, and it ranged from personal to professional development, and it created that safe space where people still could find connection as well. And as each of you are, many of you here being community builders, we know, I can tell by seeing many of you that you are the best listeners as well. And you hear and you listen and you create space for your community to provide that input, to co-create that with you. And the more you can co-create with the people you're serving, the more successful you absolutely will be, and the more engaged and the more heard your community feels. And so here, for example, this is a really beautiful collaboration that we had between One Roof and the Community Collective, celebrating our birthdays together. And we asked, our community, how they wanted to celebrate. And this is one of the beautiful ways that they wanted to, share this. The next one is member roles. So one of the smartest things that you can do is to engage the most engaged people in your community and spend time with the people who keep coming back. Spend time with the people who are showing up at all your events and asking for more, because they're super engaged and they can provide you with the feedback as well. And they're seeking leadership as well, not only from you, but it's a really great opportunity for you to provide them with a leadership opportunity amongst your community. And so often it seems counterintuitive, but spending time with the top 1% of highly engaged members in your community helps to re-engage 99% of your community, because you're scaling your impact. And there's a beautiful two-way value exchange. So one of the ways we do that at One Roof is through our beautiful ambassador program. So as the world opened up more and more post 2020, our members started looking for in-person engagement again. We had absolutely done our job as One Roof in creating that virtual space, the digital space, but then the world changed again and we had to move with it. And because we were so in tune with our members, they were already telling us, ahead of what was needed, hey, lockdowns, slowly dwindling, people, coming out of hermit stage now. We want to re-engage with people. We actually miss seeing each other. Can we have more meetups? And so our beautiful ambassadors hold and host these in-person physical spaces all across Australia, in every city and state, hosting meetups and as these points of connection. My co-founder Cherie and I are based in Melbourne, and we're not able to get to every city and state. I've got, two very young kids, so does Cherie, and more than that, we want to empower our ambassadors and most engaged members to share the love, share the One Roof love, and it's a really beautiful way for them to connect locally, but also engage their wider community around them as well. So this has been a really beautiful method for engaging existing members, our most engaged members, our disengaged members, and non-members as well. So it works for retention, it works for churn, it works for acquisition as well. So that is how we do it, or one of the ways we do it at One Roof. A couple of other things around these is we also provide a beautiful structure. So, all ambassadors get a welcome pack. They will get a handbook. We help them to promote their events as well. So over our socials and all our comms, we highlight them and uplift them as well. So they get a lot of exposure and visibility amongst the community as well. All right. So the next thing is rituals. So some beautiful things about a community is that your community, all communities have their own culture and have their own quirks. And you absolutely want that so that people know where they belong. You know, I'm paraphrasing this quote. I'm sure you'll have heard about how when you found, you know, the right people, they match your level of weird. And so sometimes creating these beautiful rituals provide a sense of belonging. And so one of our favorite things to do at the CC is to have this C symbol that you can see up on the screen. And we always take photos with it, and it helps people to know that, okay, they are a CCian. You know, we have our own labels, as opposed to when we're in one roof, you're a one roofer, you know. So it's a really great way to create that sense of belonging, amplify the culture. And we do that by having little rituals. Right at the start of building One Roof, when we were creating our tech stack and wanting to involve everyone on the daily in our Facebook group back then, we would wish everyone a happy birthday individually and tag everyone. And I remember getting to the point where there were too many people to tag. And so our new ritual, rather than a daily one, is a monthly ritual. And every month, on behalf of the people born in that month, we nominate a charity or a social enterprise to donate to. And the people in that month get to choose that. So it's a really beautiful combination of rituals and co-creation. So you can see how these tactics can stack and layer and be combined as well to create that really rich sense of community. All right, the next one is surprise and delight. So one of my love languages is gifting. And I think this should be a really strong love language for many organizations, budget allowing. But when members join One Roof, they get a welcome package. And the welcome package is from this beautiful social enterprise called Metal. And through the creation of these gifts, they are able to employ women impacted by family and domestic violence. And so surprising and delighting your members really shows appreciation on a different level. It's unexpected, and it's a great element and a great in-person and physical element, because so much of our offering, about 90% of our offering, is digital and will remain that way, with the exception of the in-person meetups. So this is a really fabulous way to connect to your members, make them feel really special as well. It's nice to have those beautiful moments of surprise. And what's great is the way that the organization gets thanked. If we take One Roof as an example, is they will, you know, take an unboxing video, for example, or they'll take a photo and then tag it on socials. And so it comes full circle and creates a really beautiful culture as well, and atmosphere, and it's great for the socials and promoting of the organization as well. I will also say it really helps when the gift or the element of surprise is aligned as well. So there's a really nice alignment between Metal also being an organization that supports women. How am I going for time, Zoe? 5 more minutes? Okay, beautiful. Great. So as you can see, there are quite a lot of tactics. I've probably only got time to go into proper depth with the first 4, but there is more to unpack and unlock, and I'm hoping that we'll get to discuss more of this on the program together, which Ramon will share more about. But the other ones I'll touch on super briefly is allowing space for your members, teaching them how to fish or how to support the community and play a really key part of the community internally. Again, those rewards and incentives for growing your community, scaling, and then voting as well. So I only had time to share the first 4, but I hope that all made sense and that you enjoyed that. I also wanted to share a few extra bonus tips, and this was if I had time, which it seems I do. So firstly, communicating your collective purpose. So going back to the definition of community, where people have this really beautiful, strong sense of collectiveness, collectivity, and collective purpose, that's really what brings your community together in the first place. And it's that first niche dimension, but reminding your community, you know, quite regularly of what brings you together, why you're together. For example, One Roof, it's in the name. We called it One Roof to embody the notion that we would provide everything that a woman entrepreneur would need, all under one roof. And so having that, you know, communicated through all, you know, your socials and your channels and your collateral is really important as well. because it communicates who your community is for, but who your community is not for as well, because communities are designed to be inclusive, and naturally they are exclusive as well. You know, we're not designing for everybody and everyone in the world, because we can't please everyone in the world all at the same time, but you absolutely know who you can serve. The other one is getting personal. So at One Roof, we look at our values, and one of them is being quite open, authentic, and vulnerable in our stories. It's part of the foundation of what the community is built on, and helps to contribute to that really strong connection. And they say that the vibe attracts the tribe, right? So this is your version of being personal. Like Ramon shared his and Zoe's beautiful story, and you get that idea of what kind of community you would be joining and participating in. So I feel that there's a lot to be said with getting personal, and I think it goes, it's an underrated factor. Collaboration over competition. So I alluded to earlier that there are quite a few communities or organizations that support women entrepreneurs, but they all have various offerings. And a few people, definitely more than multiple times, I would say, people have come up to me and said, oh, is this still a thing? You know, are we still supporting women? And, you know, why women entrepreneurs? And I don't have time to go into the gender gap or the gender pay gap, but, you know, the more the merrier, I would say, when it comes to, you know, for example, One Roof's mission of closing the gender gap specifically in entrepreneurship. It's going to take more than one person, going to take more than one organization, going to take more than one decade, you know, to shift the needle. And so we are really big on collaborating with others, and we see, you know, great merit in joining communities together, as we have with the Community Collective on multiple occasions. Listening and sharing courageously, again, and showing not just the highlight reels, but, you know, what's going on behind the scenes. For example, on the left here, you can see this beautifully posed picture, but on the right-hand side, this is the picture of the reality of what was happening probably 5 seconds before everyone was told to smile and freeze and hold your child. So when it comes to building your community in the way that you want and contributing to shaping it with your spirit, you know, I know I'm probably preaching to the converted here, but, you know, listening and then sharing back really courageously as well. Okay, I'm going to pause there. I'm trying to be a good speaker for Zoe and Ramon and try to keep the
Perfect.
time.
Excellent. Thanks, Fran. Really appreciate it. And please, I know that some of you might have questions for Fran. Some really good tips there. Personally, for me, the focusing on the 1%. I love that idea of the people who are most engaged, because they're going to have an outsized impact on the rest of the 99% and help you scale. And this idea of surprise and delight, I'm a big fan of, right? So how do we create moments that can really stand out for everyone? So thanks for that, Fran. So if you do have questions for Fran, though, if you could type them in the chat. And so we're just going to start collecting those questions. And at the end, we'll leave some time for Q&A. But we also want to make sure that you get some really valuable content. So again, thanks to Fran for really helping us understand how do we kind of build community, and how does it look like when we want to create them and really grow them. And so what I want to do now is talk a little bit about how the Chaos Pilot experience design approach can really help us in creating a structured approach, really to integrating those elements into an experience that you're creating. And so I want to go back to that love story that we talked about earlier, and share just 3 tips that I think are really powerful from Chaos Pilot's experience design toolkit that I think could really be helpful. So I think the first thing that we want to do is when we created our values, we were instinctively doing that was defining our meaningful outcomes. So that's the first tip. Really start with your meaningful outcome. For us, it was, again, celebration, commitment, and community. The big tip here then is to start by defining those outcomes, not starting with logistics or the activities, right? We want to understand what are the emotional outcomes that we want for the participants. This will give you a real clear direction and make decision making much easier as you go ahead. The next thing we wanted to do at was really brainstorm, how do we want them to feel? And so once we identified those core values, we really wanted to understand and imagine how people would express that, either through different social media or interactions afterwards. And so this was important for us to already start imagining and almost creating a vision for what we wanted and how we wanted our wedding values to come to life. The second tip from the Chaos Pilot approach is, once you've defined those meaningful outcomes, and before, again, going into the activities and logistics, we want to map the emotional journey that you want people to take, right? Again, not just at the end, right? Because obviously a wedding, the ceremony feels like the big part of what we were designing for, but actually we wanted to design everything even before they even showed up, so going back to a bit of what Fran was talking about, what's the invitation like? How do we make sure that that can really come to life? And if the meaningful outcome is the sunshine, then the emotional journey we want is the fertile soil which the experience grows. So sometimes we think that our job is also just to create a positive emotional journey. But during the experience design program, we also talk about concepts and theories like the happiness wave model that helps us really rethink that. Instead of trying to make sure that people are always feeling positive feelings, how can we use feelings of discomfort and different and creating feelings of friction that can really be powerful in an experience? And the third tip, really, as you might have noticed, these arches, the 5 E's really this 5E model is really fundamental to the experience design approach. And so we use this 5E model to really think about then the experience people have before, during, and after, and beyond your time together. And this really opens up all new kinds of possibilities around how do you bring those outcomes to life. So we didn't know about these 5 E's when we created our wedding, but these are some examples around how we kind of brought our community to life. And so this is really important for you to consider as you think about the experiences that you have when you design for those communities. So those are some examples, again, from the way people learned about the wedding, right, to that entry point, how we engaged them throughout the actual wedding event itself. So we had different events. And then really thinking about the full exit, and then also not just the exit from the physical space, but then the extension. How do they then make sure that we can continue connecting with them through that process? So those are just some examples around how you can apply kind of the 5E model to really create and really create meaningful outcomes physically. So really quickly, just to recap. So really, one, you want to start with defining those meaningful outcomes. We talked about mapping the emotional journey and then using the 5E model. And Fran really shared some great tips around the key ingredients to designing and growing a community, right? And particularly, I think this idea of those extra valuable tips that she mentioned as well. So again, some really, really good starting points to get you going with how we can design experiences for community. But again, that's just the surface level, right? We've just covered a little bit. I know Fran is going to be going much more deeper into those ingredients during the experience design program. But there's obviously more for you to know, as you see here. This is just kind of scratching the surface. So we still want to answer these kinds of questions. How can we reframe design challenges? How can we co-create a meaningful vision? To how can we communicate meaningfully in a way that engages the people who are attending? How do we prototype? How do we structure and execute these experiences? So all of these questions are things that we want to address as part of the experience design program in April. And so I'll just spend a little bit of time just talking about that. So we have a great team of experts ready to guide you through that program. So the facilitators will be myself, Marilee McCoy, as well as a co-facilitator, and Fran as our mentor. So we'll be spending 3 days really exploring and discovering answers about how to reframe and mine for meaning, how to create engagement, and how to really drive for impact. As you see here, kind of a loose agenda there of the program over those 3 days. Now, 3 days sounds like a lot, but that really allows us to go deeper into the tools and methods. And the program itself is really experiential and allows us to really also bring your design challenges. So I think one of the benefits, as well, is that you as a participant can bring a program that you want to design and apply it real time. And then we'll look to play, prototype, and test out these ideas during that time in April, and allow you to really think about how to go much faster once the course is over, hit the ground running when you're back at work. In terms of our venue, we are also very lucky to have the Mineral Springs Hotel in Hepburn Spring again as our venue. So this is the second iteration of the program. We really enjoyed running the very first program there. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area. Few of you might know Hepburn Springs and Dalesford, the surrounding area there. It's just a great time to disconnect and move away from kind of the hustle and bustle and be a bit unplugged for that time, and really connect with the people who are going to be gathered there for the experience. And so we want you to really think about, how would it feel to go through a process like that, and really come away with this idea of really feeling confident in leading others, and how to design these kind of meaningful experiences, feeling energized, right, by getting together with this new community of like-minded designers, and having a really clear vision and immediate next steps around how you want to move forward. So in terms of the program itself, the full value, as you see there, is $39.50. But again, for those that are part of this webinar and signed up, we will offer a special price of $34.97, and that can be broken up into 3 payment plans as well. And so you have a link there. If you will send out that link as well if you want to learn more. And we also have an extra bonus. Want to make sure that people are designing more experiences. And we're also offering, for those that kind of attend, we're really experimenting with this new concept of a coaching circle. So beyond just this amazing time of coming together, we want to also allow time for you all to really implement it into your practice. And so we're offering this coaching circle as a free benefit and bonus for those that can sign up to the program. Again, we want to make sure that we can maximize the impact of the program. So again, just really quickly want to thank Fran and all the work that she's done. And please, if you have any questions, I see there might be some questions in the chat. Maybe we have some time to answer those questions. See any, Zoe, that we want to start with?
Yeah, maybe one here. So apart from member satisfaction, what are some ways to measure the success of a community?
Amazing. Is that for me?
I think so, yep.
Amazing. I'm like, can I nerd out about this too? Awesome. So that's from Berenice. Hi, Berenice. Apart from member satisfaction, what are some ways to measure the success of a community? Great. Love the question. So what we're talking about really are metrics and how to measure a success of a community. The extension of that is what's the ROI, or the return on investment of a community, right? Is one way to measure it. So I think in the time that we have, something that is really great framing and a lens through which to answer this question is, what are the business or organizational goals for you first? Because that will help to determine the metrics that you track and help to determine what success looks like for you. Because different communities might have different ideas of success. That, for example, one community, their metric might be lifetime value, or how long essentially they stay in the community, right? Whereas others might be measuring something quite different. So sometimes organizations have a community as a way for solving issues or problems. And I know that one organization, for example, tracks the number of times a community is able to answer a query before a customer or a member goes to the contact us form or a call center, if that makes sense. So success looks different to different communities depending on what their business goals are, and then that determines what they want to track. So I hope that answers your question, Bernice.
Any other question?
Yes, we had one from Tessa. So would love to know which digital platforms Fran has had most success with for hosting an active online community. I'm looking to possibly move away from Meta ones.
Yes, for sure, for sure. So in terms of like talking about the tech stack, I can share what we started with that was really scrappy and what we've moved to, because I know different people are at different stages and you might want something simple versus something with bells and whistles. So in terms of something more experimental, we started with a Squarespace website and we had a bunch of plugins. One was called Community Box and the other was called Member Space. So Community Box allows you to create profiles for people, and Member Space allows you to create membership tiers or pricing. And those are plugins for websites. And there's quite a lot now. You know, the community space and the tech tools have really evolved. So that's just what we started with. In terms of platforms for virtual calls like this, Zoom is fabulous. We use Zoom quite a lot. The Community Collective uses Butter, which is really fantastic as well, very highly interactive. And then in terms of platforms, so your full platforms, OneRoof, we use something called Mighty Networks. So that's definitely got all the bells and whistles on it. It's very established. They've got great support systems, but there are others as well. The Community Collective uses oh, the name's just escaped me. Disco. That's right, because we were also deciding between Mighty Networks and Disco. I would say Mighty Networks is quite heavy on the community and connection side, which is what we really wanted. Disco is heavier on the educational side, so really good for courses, uploading a lot of resources, which is perfect for Community Collective because they host regular cohorts, 12-week amazing cohorts. There are some others as well, but those are my two favorites at the moment.
Amazing. And so maybe the last one I'll sneak in here is once you've selected the best tactics for your context, for your community, any tips about how you can convey the value and impact of these to the stakeholders who control the budget?
Yes, 100%. Okay, beautiful. So I think let's think about tactics and then the ROI on those tactics as part of that question, but then talking about the general ROI and delving more into that. So if we think about some of those tactics around co-creation, that can link into a retention piece and that can link into your churn. So if your stakeholders need data, what you can track is number of members, not just who have stayed, but number of members leaving per annum, right? And you want to have a low churn rate. So that's something that's really helpful. Another thing to look at is the member roles as another tactic. So for example, we have 30 ambassadors all across Australia. So if that's something that they're tracking, it might be the number of ambassadors and growing that over time, or the length of time in which an ambassador has stayed in that role. So our ambassadors usually stay around as an ambassador and choose to renew at least 2 to 3 years. And then an extension of that is the number of meetups held. So for example, last year we held 77 meetups all across Australia, none of which Cherie or I attended, which is really wonderful because it shows the level of engagement by the ambassadors, but the demand for meetups as well. So those are just a couple of examples. I hope that answers your question.
Amazing.
All right.
Super speed. Well done.
All right. Thanks so much, Fran. I'm mindful of time. And as you see there, those are the next steps to apply to the program. And please do let us know if there's any tool or principle that you've taken away from the session today. Do we want to take a quick photo for those that are still around before we finish? Zoe, will you help us with that?
Yep. Sorry, I'm just like going between multiple screens. All right.
All right, everybody.
Oh,
Jeez.
sorry. I'm trying to smile and cheese at the same time. Cheese. Oh, my camera's over
All
here.
right.
There is a, if you do have your phone on you and want to give us any feedback, we've got a QR code there, but we'll also send a link via with the follow-up email as well, if you prefer.
All right. Well, thanks everybody, and really appreciate it. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.